I'm doing this response video, and this is in no way to be combative. I love Robert Welsh. He's one of my favorite makeup artists I follow on YouTube. I've been subscribed to him for a while, and he's obviously very talented. He recently did a video on Saint about the MLM aspect, but specifically what I'm responding to really is the Demi product itself and the claim that it is just like any other shade color correcting products out there. I disagree. First of all, I don't like MLMs either. I don't like cult mentality. And before I get comments, because I know people are going to be like commenting, like, why are you a Saint artist then? I will address a little bit of that like at the end of the video, because I'm going to do a demo, like a side-by-side comparison with color correctors, another brand of color correctors, and show you the difference of why I think the Demi products are much better. I have a video linked in the description from Carolyn Barnes, and she is a makeup artist. She did a fantastic video on color correcting in general, because of course color correcting has been around forever. Makeup artists do it all the time, and they use, you know, products like this with the color corrections. A lot of them even have like primary colors, like RCMA kits, where they literally mix a foundation shade for whatever skin tone happens to be in their chair. I absolutely love her video because she does such a great job just describing and explaining the theory and how you can go about color correcting. Now, the way that she does it, and the reason why I think Demi products are different, is all of the color correcting. Now, I'm an esthetician, I'm not a makeup artist, but all of the color correcting that I know of is always said to be done as underpainting. So you put on a layer of, say, you know, some waxes, creams like this, and then you put foundation over it. Demi products are meant to be worn alone, and the finish on the skin, in my opinion, looks impeccable. So I'm going to start on a demo. I'm going to do one side of my face doing that type of technique, the traditional color correcting technique with layering foundation on top. And then, of course, I have my, you know, Demi correcting kit. I'm going to do the Demi on the other side of my face to compare and show you why I think Demi is very different. Now, I'm going to do this as a voiceover because I know that I'll end up, you know, taking longer than I should because I'll be talking in between the steps. And I'm just going to show you systematically how to do this on both sides, and then I will be back and talk about it further. I'm starting out by prepping my under eyes with the Saint Balm. I always use balm type products on my under eyes. I always advise my clients to also do the same. I find it to be way more moisturizing for mature eyes, and this really helps before any makeup application. Here are two of the Demi brushes, a bright brush and a spot brush, and they're nice and wispy, like what Carolyn Barnes was talking about in her video to use for this kind of technique. And this is the color correcting wheel that I'm going to be using. So here I'm showing you the myriad of colors that I have going on around my eyes. So here is the color correction wheel that I'm going to be using, and this is the spot brush from Saint. I'm just going to be using it on both sides with the different product lines. Okay, so now, as you can see, I'm putting on the orange to counteract blue, because that is mostly what I have, but I also have some purple blue going on my under eyes. If you watch Carolyn's video that I have linked down below, she talks about how these particular correctors, because they're used for underpainting, they don't disappear into the skin. You will see the color showing up and staying on the skin, and then you are to cover these color correctors with foundation and concealer. So I am trying to be as sparing as possible because I definitely don't want to do a comparison video where it looks like I'm purposely trying to make this side of my face look bad. I am trying to do it as thin and as sheer as I possibly can, and it seems to be working. Up here on my lids, I know already, because I already know the color correction that I need on my face, it tends to go a little purple, and this yellow you can see did a pretty good job. And they are a consistency that's kind of more on the waxy side. So this is exactly what you would need, especially if you're going to be layering foundation on top. You don't want anything to move underneath. Also, I wanted to mention there was someone featured in Robert's video, I can't remember his name, he comes up briefly, where he talks about no one is going to waste all of this time to do the Demi method. Now, I personally think it's worth it. There is a learning curve, but you get it very quickly. I am here every step of the way, teaching my customers exactly where to put everything and how. And in my opinion, this traditional way takes longer and it doesn't even look as good. Now I am going to start tackling some imperfections here. These are actually healing blemishes, and usually I know for me they tend to go purple, so I am going to go on with a yellow. And for me personally, when I have healing blemishes, they do tend to go a little purple. So I am always like in the yellow-orange family for color correction. And now here, this is a little bit tricky. I do have acne scars. You could probably tell because I'm like really close up to the camera. And I try my best to neutralize this as much as possible. And then this here is a lavender. So lavender is really good for sallow complexions, which I do tend to have a little bit more of a greenish yellow under tinge to my complexion. So for underpainting, for the color correction technique, you put this on first, and then when you layer your foundation on top, it will be brighter. So that's the idea of it. So you can see that this is kind of leaning like a lavender pink, and it's giving me that bright hue. And I am still feathering this as light as possible, but you can see it does look a bit chalky just because this is the kind of product it is. And here I actually just changed this color corrector to a little bit more of a green because it seemed a little bit more red, and this seemed to work a little bit better. Now here I'm showing you my Tarte Shape Tape is what I used to use, and this is a Wander Beauty cream foundation that I absolutely loved for the longest time, so I'm going to use that to layer over. So with this Tarte Shape Tape, I already know this is crazy pigmented, and I don't want to go overboard because, like I said, I'm going to do my best to make this look as good as possible. And this is another demi brush that I'm going to use. This is the Blur brush, and I am just going to stipple this on top the best I can so I'm not moving any of the product, any of the color corrector that I put on underneath. And then I'm going to do this on my eyelids as well because that's always what I do, just to get a little bit more of that coverage up there. Even though the yellow color corrector did pretty well on its own, but that's the only thing that really disappeared into my skin. And now I am just going to put a tiny bit more. I'm just building up as I go because, again, I don't want to cake this on. Now the next thing I will use is the trusty Beauty Blender, just the original Beauty Blender, and it is already dampened. And I'm going to use that to spread the rest of this on by pouncing so I'm not moving anything underneath again. And also it is going to pick up any excess. So I could cut down on the risk of any cakiness. So I am doing my best to make this water-based concealer look as good as possible, but this has really fallen out of favor for me, using anything water-based on my skin, especially my maturing skin now. Now I'm going to go over to the cream stick, and I am going to put it on strategically around the areas that I did put that color corrector, like on my acne scars and whatnot, because I don't want to disturb anything underneath. And this particular formula, this Wander Beauty cream foundation, I still use. I still really, really like this. And it does blend really, really nicely. So you'll see like how it just kind of melds into the skin with the Beauty Blender, and I'm just pouncing again, so I'm not moving anything underneath. And then I do a little second coat because I need it, like over my acne scars. And what I do there is I actually get some of the product on the sponge itself. And now I'm just going to dab on top, very little, as sheer of a layer that I can place just to try to make it as nice of a finish as I can. So far, it is looking okay because this is the initial placement. Usually, anything water-based I've found, not only on my skin of my customers, my clients, all of that, I can tell that it seems okay at first, and then the problem is later on in the day. So now I'm just using a little bit of loose translucent powder. And again, I am using the tiniest bit because I am trying to make this look as good as I possibly can for the sake of the demo here. And this is normally what I would have done in the past, where I always felt like I needed to powder everything. And this particular powder is light and velvety, and I still like it. I do use it sparingly from time to time. Now, I know traditionally people reach for powder products, powder bronzer, blush, and whatnot, so that's what I'm using here. This is a Becca bronzer. I used to love Becca products. I'm sad that they're not a company anymore. This particular bronzer, I remember I used to use quite a bit, And it's pretty velvety, even though I don't reach for powder products anymore, especially now that I see the cream products, like how well they look on the skin, especially by the end of the day. And this is just a Urban Decay powder blush that I always really liked, kind of more of a coral color. And then this is also Becca. This is a highlighter, and this is probably one of the more subtle powder ones that I have, so I just wanted to use this one so it didn't look too flashy. Okay, so here are the Demi correctors, and these are different. These you wear by themselves. You don't layer anything on top, and you specifically get matched to certain shades depending on the undertones and what it is that you need to color correct. Now, for me, I have this blue here, so I'm going in with an orange, but there is something about the way that these are blended. They still behave like a wax, like the Aesthetica ones. And they do go on very sheer and very thin, but they look more skin-like. And that causes these not to have to be layered over. Also, the consistency of these, I keep seeing they behave like a wax on the skin. And that imparts a sheen to the skin, but they're on thin enough that your own skin gets to shine through it. So it doesn't look like there's anything obstructing the luminosity of your skin. Now, one thing that Robert mentioned in his video was that it is beneficial to completely blank out your face with foundation in order to get a blank canvas and then layer all the products on top. Now, of course, when you're 20 years old, you know, back in the day, pretty much everything looks good on your skin, and it's not necessarily a bad finish if that is the full coverage finish that you want. But definitely if you are more mature, the more texture and the more layers you have on your skin can make things look more cakey and more chalky, especially by the end of the day. Now, me personally, I am done with that life. So here is the difference. This is just with the water-based concealer, and then this is with the Demi alone. I feel like the left side of my face looks dry and chalky already. So now I'm going to go into the sculpting and the toning with the Demi products, which I feel is also different than any other color correction products on the market. As far as I know, this is one of the sculpting shades, and this is a neutral violet, so it combats any yellow or sallowness, which I personally have in my skin. Again, these shades are picked on your undertone. Some people might have reddish, some people might have melasma. Then they will have a different type of a tone that they would need. But if you can see the way that I'm putting this on, how thin this goes on, I'm putting this on a little bit heavier than I would in real life, but I'm trying to get it to show up on camera so you can see. But you can see that the Demi, they're so thin and they're so sheer, and this is why I keep saying they behave like a wax on the skin, and it also ends up looking like a stain, which is why they look so natural and they leave behind zero texture. So you could also see that my cheekbone looks lifted, but is very subtle. I absolutely love this shade for the jawline as well, because to me this looks like an actual shadow. Illamasqua has a product that is close to this that I've seen. It's kind of like a gel stick, and it works pretty well. So if you want, you should check that out as well. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's from Illamasqua. Now with the toning, also, you could do bronzing, and this one here is a neutral red, and this is to combat any of the greenish that I have around my skin, because like I said, I'm kind of sallow, a little greenish, and around my temples. Of course, it's another thing. As we get older, we tend to have like thinning skin, and especially around the temples, you start to get like this hollowness, and then the greenish bluish tinge of like the veining could start showing through. So this neutral red really, really helps with that. Now I'm showing you the toning of the skin, and I just pointed to an orange that looks crazy, but watch what happens to this area of my skin when I put this on. So I am lightly buffing this in, and it took away that ashiness. Usually this toning step we do in the very beginning before we do any sculpting and toning, but I wanted to showcase this for you so you could actually see what happens. My skin does not look orange. This particular Demi shade is bringing vitality back into my skin, and it is canceling out any of the greenish blue. Blue would be ashy, and that just completely brought me back to neutral. Now, just to remind everybody, I have zero foundation or concealer on my skin, on this side, on my face. And this is, I'm just showing you the contour line that is still there. And I just put a little bit more bronzer on top just in case anything faded, just from, you know, me doing the toning, because it usually should be the opposite, do the toning first. So I'm just feathering on a little bit more of that bronze color. Now, to me, this is one of the reasons why Demi is so different. I'm putting on these seemingly insane looking colors, and the texture of it, the way that it behaves on the skin, and the color correcting, color canceling, makes it look like you have fresh, even skin with zero texture that you would get from traditional makeup having to layer a bunch of products on top of each other. Now, I just showed you two colors that can be used as blushes. I used the one that is a little bit more coral, but there's one that's a little bit more pink. And again, this would counteract things that are going on with your complexion, whether you tend to be ashy, whether you tend to be green or sallow. And those particular colors are also used for deeper skin tones that need color correction, because everyone's color correction colors will be different depending on their skin tone. Now, you saw me looking around because I am losing the light, but I feel like this may be beneficial because I think you could really take a good look at my skin, because I could get really close up to the camera this way and not have any interference from the sun that was coming in through the windows earlier. So now color correcting, you do this afterwards, after you put all your color products on with this Demi product. So that's another thing that's different in terms of the way that this product is compared to other color correctors on the market. So you put on all of your toning and, blush and bronzing, and then you go in, but it doesn't leave any demarcation lines because this literally melts into the skin and you're only touching color to color. That's what you do with color correcting anyway. But with this particular product, it doesn't look like it's layered on top, leaving behind texture and discoloring what you did underneath. It's crazy. I still am trying to wrap my head around it, but it works, and you still get the color correction without disturbing any of the color products that you put on first. What you just saw me do on my under eyes is actually an extra brightening step that I just discovered with this particular shade, because I have a little bit of greenish always poking through. So I literally just tapped the tiniest bit of product and it completely canceled that out and brightened everything a little further. And I also use these on my eyes. You can see how thin I am putting them on. Again, they behave like a wax and they just look so natural. And because you're putting them on so sheer and so thin, they will not crease. I do have eye primer on, and you saw that I did put on the 03 to neutralize the discoloration that I have on my eyelids, and it just looks like skin. And I just put that little bronzing color on there just to add a little bit of depth. And that NV+1 is a cool tone that I use for my contour, and I used it as eyeliner. And now this is the last brightening step. I'm just going on my cheekbone with a shade that is a little bit brighter, but very, very subtle. And now this is the balm, and I'm using this as a natural highlight just to impart a sheen to my skin. And you could put on illuminator if you wanted to, but usually I like this kind of a finish. Just barely there, but dewy. Okay, so that's that. Now, I've rapidly lost the light because it's the afternoon, it's fall, so of course it gets darker a lot quicker, but that might not be such a bad thing because I feel like you might be able to see this a little bit better. So of course, this is the Demi side, and this is the traditional makeup side. So a lot of people would look at this and be like, well, this is a beautiful finish, it looks great. Well, that might be what you're looking for, that's cool, but Demi is different. So you saw that I don't have to layer anything on top of it. And I'm sure, like I said, a makeup artist like Robert probably knows that there's other things out there on the market. I know of one other brand, and it's a French brand, and I think they're called La Maquillage or something like that. And they kind of have a system like, it kind of looks like Demi, but it's like they're like in plastic tubs instead. And but they have like kind of this type of a system, and I believe this is how you're supposed to wear it as well. But other than that, I don't know of any other, and this to me looks flat. So the whole thing too, one of the things that he said on the on his video was, like this will end up looking flat. This doesn't look flat, so this is only Demi, and you saw what I put on, and this is truly, to me, no makeup. And you saw that I wore the same balm, like as like a little sheen. You could put on like a cream illuminator. You could do whatever you want. But I prefer that this finish more than this one, and especially throughout the day. See, obviously, I'm going to have crinkling, right? Because I'm 48. So, I'm having like, fine line issues, and, my skin in terms of like moisturization, even though I do my best, is not like, how it used to be when I was in my 20s. So if there is any settling or anything like that ever happens with cream makeup, I just do that and it's restored. This, I can't, I mean, I could feel it. It feels feels dry, but like a thin texture dry. And what, you know, that's also the thing with water-based concealers and foundations. Now, what I put on my face actually was that Wander Beauty. So this is my, like, I love this. I still use this thing, and I don't think they make this anymore, but because it has no water content, that's another thing too. Cream products, oil products that don't have water content have a longer shelf life because of that. And I've had this like for a while, and it's still good, and I really, really liked this. So if I put water-based foundation on top of the cream color corrector, you know, so I came back and I did the green one here. This is the yellow, and that's what it looks like with the cream. If I did it with water-based concealer, it would look like this. I mean, water-based foundation, rather. It would look like this. That's flat. So, in my opinion, Demi is very, very different from what I know of on the market for the underpainting color correction. Stila has a palette. I had it. Didn't like it. It was kind of like colors like this. Now, in Caroline Barnes's video, you'll see that she talks about how some of these are very, very vibrant and very stark, and you have to mix them sometimes. So she's a makeup artist, and she knows what she's doing. So you would, like, be on your own, you know, like, trying to figure this out. You could research and figure it out yourself and use some other product, of course. And the way that she does it, I love the way she does her video, but it explains, like, what you need to do in order to get, like, a natural finish if you need to, you know, that's what this is. It's like makeup artists. They do this all the time. They mix and match and, you know, come up with colors depending on the skin tone. But this is powder, you know, blush. I put a little bit of bronzer. I did have the contour here. You know, this is just that, you know, that contour from Demi. So, and you saw, like, when I put it on, it looks like a stain. And I just love the dewiness of it. Now, another thing that was mentioned in his video that he said, he was just like, well, you know, the Demi is cream and it's going to rub off. Well, I mean, I wear a mask all the time. I'm in the dental field, so I work on patients and everything. And, you know, usually, obviously, you're going to have like a little bit of rub off, but that goes with any makeup. And we're not like going and constantly rubbing all over our faces. If you do, obviously, it's going to come off. But that happens even with regular makeup. You know, if I come over here, you know, and I'm like that, you know, like the makeup is going to come off. So, and this was powder and, you know, with the foundation and everything. Of course, I'm going to be red, but you'll probably see that there'll be a splotch, like, once I leave that alone now. But I still prefer this finish. So sometimes when it gets a little bit darker, it's a little bit easier for you to see. And I do have acne scars, and I try to correct them as much as best as I could. Sometimes it still doesn't, but it, you know, it does a little bit of something. You know, it does help a little bit, but... And I didn't have, like, any super crazy active pimples. I had, like, these two that are healing, in the process of healing. So they're a little bit more purple. That's why I chose the yellow on one of them. And, yeah. And then, of course, you saw me use, you know, one of them. You see how I use this on the eyes, and it just gave me, like, a natural sculpt. But it's not going to crease because I put it on so thin. And these, the Demi behaves more like a wax. Caroline Barnes also in her video talked about how you want the texture to be that way. You want it to be, you know, like this kind of a thing. And I feel like this is from Aesthetica. And she used one from Ben Nye, which is probably way better. And I don't have the Ben Nye one. But she was talking about, she even specified, she was like, you want them to be, put them on sheer, and you want them to be a thinner, drier formula. That's what Demi is. Now, obviously, if you pick up a big old swatch of Demi and put it on your finger, you know, or swatch it, it's going to be creamy. But if you put them on and layer them sheer, you know, the way that I was showing, even on this side when I use this, that's not going to happen. So, you know, so that's my 2 cents on that. Any makeup is going to rub off. And you could put a little bit of powder on top of this. Let's just say you wanted to do, you know, because I have... It could be anything. I used a loose powder. Where's my other one? I have like so much stuff out here right now. Well, might not be such a bad thing. So here is, you know, this is, actually, I'll just use like the loose powder. This is like from an organic clean line called Lotus. I really liked their stuff, you know, so I still have this. Sometimes I do use loose powder. So if I wanted to, and I put a little bit there, and say here, if I wanted to set, this still looks more flat. And, you know, so, and I put a little bit more on this side, but it still leaves a sheen. Because these, like I keep saying, I feel like I'm a broken record, act like a wax on the skin, and they are, you know, airbrush. So here's the part that, you know, like I rubbed off here. So obviously, if you're going to be like touching over your face, you know, like smashing your face, any makeup is going to come off. Unless... you do the shellac look, you know, like the, you know, Nikkie Tutorials. I mean, yeah, it looks gorgeous. me personally, I don't want the mannequin face because I'm 48 and it's going to look horrible like in person. So my thing is also like Michelle Spieler. She's also a Seine artist, by the way, who is a Hollywood makeup artist and has been doing this for 25 years. I love her videos because she always gives great tips. She talks about other brands too, not just Saint. And she talks about how her and her community are the Look Good Close-Up Club. Well, I want to be a part of that club. So I am not a fan of like, you know, super textured and dry and, you know, also the colors. I mean, another thing too is when we get older, we should be wearing things that are a little bit darker because it could showcase texture and just, you know, like things are hollowing out. You know, that's just what happens, like, you know, like as we age. And this to me still looks the best. You could even see it more, you know, like looking straight on, the difference between this and this, even though I put a little bit of powder, there's still a sheen from the Demi. So my whole point to making this video was just to showcase that really. And, you know, because I came across this video and it was mostly about like anti-MLM stuff and, you know, which I totally get. Like everybody's got their own opinion, right? Like everybody, you know, like if you're super anti-MLM and you would never use a product, well, you know, that's your prerogative. But I just wanted to address that Demi, you know, because one of the main premises of his video was basically like you could find, like the Demi method is something that Saint made up. And it's not, they didn't invent color correcting and the product is not any different than anything that you would find on the market. I think it is. Just, you know, aside from this French one that I never ever used, but I saw a couple of videos with somebody using it and it looked to be close to the Demi method. Obviously, the concept of color correcting is not new. That is where, you know, they got this from. But the makeup of the products themselves is different and the way that you wear it is different. There's no layering on top where you risk texture, and the water-based foundations and concealers are the things that I am like, no, nay, never again for me, because this is what it looks like. It has to be either cream or oil-based. Now, another thing I wanted to address about MLMs, because I said in the beginning of the video, I don't like MLMs. I don't. But I did fall in love with this makeup. I did fall in love with the product. One thing about like a lot of anti-MLM content is very much like, you know, blanket statements about like products and things. Like I said, if you are of the mindset that you don't want to support them at all, hey, that's your prerogative. That's your thing. Totally get it. But from where I'm standing, like I'm not one of those people. I know that I'm the exception and not the rule. I don't blow smoke, you know, on people. I don't like go around trying to, you know, cold message and recruit people and all this stuff. I seriously am really into the product, and that's mostly what I'm here for. Anybody like on my team will tell you, like, I don't mince words, like I don't like cult mentality. Like the second, if I do see that, thankfully I don't have that around me. But again, I may be the exception and not the rule. But yeah, so I just wanted to say, like, you know, a couple words about that. That is totally your prerogative, however it is that you feel about it either way. But I just wanted to make this comparison video to show you why I think Demi is very, very different than doing the traditional color correcting with any other product that is like it out there on the market. Okay, so that is it. Not that I'm saying that Robert Welch is ever going to see this video. If you do, you know, like I said, this is not to be combative at all. This is literally just, you know, showcasing and, you know, what I feel the difference of that there is a difference in the product. And I don't know if you've ever used it before. It didn't sound like you did. And I don't know if you would ever want to because you don't want to support MLMs. Again, your prerogative. But even like how this feels on the skin, this is like more like powdery and like flat, and this feels supple. Like my skin is like super moisturized again because it's an occlusive and it's keeping like all of the moisture in. And at 48, that's a godsend to me because that really helps to keep everything looking as supple as possible. Yeah, so anyway, so as I was saying. So yeah, so this is in no way to be like, you know, throwing shade, nothing like that at all. So that's all I wanted to do. I also, you know, said in the beginning, like I love watching Robert's videos, a very talented makeup artist, and I love the Welch twins. Oh my God, you guys are so funny. They're hilarious, you know, so I love watching them. There was actually another video, my God, when was it? A few years ago, might have been during the pandemic, where they had their brother on and they were showing like older photos of them, like when they were, you know, younger, like, you know, family photos. And I think this brother does like their editing or something, but oh my God, like that dynamic was just hysterical. Oh, that's what it was. They were doing a makeup look on him, I think. But yeah, that I think was probably one of the first videos that I ever saw of them. And I fell in love with like their whole dynamic. Okay. So if you want to contact me, have any questions about anything, all of my information is in the description box, and you can email me with any questions, of course, too. And yeah, I think that does it for this comparison video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.